At 2,814 meters above the Levant, where snow lingers even in the height of summer, there is a ruin that should not exist. No road leads there easily. No modern town claims it. And yet, carved into stone at the highest point of this mountain, ancient hands built something that predates most of what we call civilization. The Book of Enoch makes a claim that few are willing to say aloud in a church on Sunday morning. It says that 200 celestial beings, the Watchers, descended to this exact peak, not symbolically, not in a vision, here, on this summit. And before they walked down into the world of men, they stopped. They made a pact, a binding oath sealed by curses, sworn upon the very rock beneath their feet. The text gives the mountain a name because of that oath. And on that same summit, in the modern era, archaeologists uncovered the ruins of a temple and an inscription that speaks of an oath sworn at this very point. The seeker is invited to ask, is this coincidence? Or is this the oldest crime scene on Earth? Welcome to Bible Secrets, Hidden History. Before this investigation unfolds, consider this an invitation, not an advertisement. If forgotten history like this matters to you, if you believe these records deserve to be examined rather than dismissed, subscribing helps keep this archive alive. And if this account moves you, a simple like ensures it reaches others still searching for the truth. Chapter 1. The Mountain of the Oath. Mount Hermon does not sit quietly on a map. It straddles the borders of modern Lebanon, Syria, and the Golan Heights, a contested crown of stone that has been fought over for millennia. But long before borders existed, it held a different kind of significance. In Hebrew, the root of the name Hermon is closely tied to the word herem, a term meaning ban, devotion to destruction, or that which is set apart under a curse. This is not a neutral mountain. From its very name, it is marked. The Book of Enoch, a text known to the authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls, quoted directly in the New Testament Book of Jude, and treated as scripture by the ancient Ethiopian Church, describes the event with chilling precision. According to chapter 6, 200 watchers, under the leadership of a being named Semjaza, descended in the days of Jared. The text states they landed upon the summit of Hermon, and there, the account says, they swore a mutual oath and bound one another with curses to carry out what they had planned. The mountain, the text claims, was named for this very oath. This is not a story passed down through vague folklore. This is a written record, preserved for over 2,000 years, naming a real, identifiable mountain, one that still stands today. Chapter 2. The descent picture. The scene as the ancient writer described it. 200 figures, described as sons of heaven, gathered at the highest point of the visible world. Below them, the green expanse of Canaan. Above them, only sky. According to Enoch, this was not a fall from grace in the abstract theological sense most modern readers imagine. It was deliberate, calculated. A council convened at altitude, as though height itself mattered, as though proximity to the heavens made the oath more binding, more irreversible. The leaders are named Semjaza, Azazel. Each is given command over a portion of the 200. Each takes a human wife. And from this union, the text says, came a forgotten lineage, the Nephilim, beings of immense size and violent appetite, whose existence would corrupt the earth so thoroughly that it would later require a flood to cleanse it. The historian Flavius Josephus, writing in the 1st century AD in his Antiquities of the Jews, references this same tradition, describing giants born of an unnatural union between heavenly beings and human women, whose physical remains, he claims, were still being shown to travelers in his own era. Josephus was not a fringe writer. He was a respected Roman Jewish historian, and his casual reference to this tradition tells the seeker something important. In the ancient world, this was not considered myth. It was considered history. Chapter 3: The Ruins at the Summit. Now the investigation turns from scripture to stone. In the 19th century, British surveyor Charles Warren, the same Warren associated with excavations beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, documented something unusual at the summit of Mount Hermon. Later expeditions, including detailed surveys in the 20th century, confirmed it. The remains of a temple structure, built of massive cut stones, positioned at the absolute highest point of the mountain. This site is now referred to by researchers as Qasr Antar, and it holds a distinction that should give any seeker pause. It is, by elevation, among the highest confirmed temple structures ever built in the ancient Near East. Why would ancient builders haul cut stone to nearly 2,800 meters? Why construct a sanctuary where the air itself becomes thin, where snow remains for most of the year, where no city, no water source, no agricultural reason justifies the labor? Among the ruins, surveyors recovered a Greek inscription carved into an altar stone. Translated, the inscription references an oath, stating that those who swear it proceed from this point, invoking the authority of the greatest and holy God. The inscription itself dates from a much later period than the events Enoch describes, likely from the Greco-Roman era, when the site may have been repurposed as a pagan high place. But the language is the detail that has captivated researchers for over a century. An oath, sworn at this point, at the summit, on the very mountain that the oldest Hebrew tradition already named for an oath sworn by descending watchers. Was this later temple built atop something older, a site already considered sacred, already associated with binding vows, for reasons lost to written history? The stones do not answer, but they do not contradict the older text either. Chapter 4: The Corruption. According to Enoch, the descent at Hermon was only the beginning. What followed was a transfer of forbidden knowledge. Azazel is specifically credited with teaching humanity the forging of weapons, the working of metals, and the arts of adornment and cosmetics. Knowledge the text frames not as progress, but as corruption. Other watchers are said to have revealed the secrets of root cutting, enchantments, and the reading of signs in the stars and moon. The result, according to the text, was a world transformed, and not for the better. Violence multiplied. The Nephilim consumed what the earth produced, and then turned on humanity itself. The cry of the earth, Enoch writes, rose up to heaven. This is where the narrative intersects directly with Genesis chapter 6, the same chapter that speaks, in far fewer words, of sons of God taking human wives, of Nephilim walking the earth, and of a creator who saw that the wickedness of man was great. Genesis gives the seeker 3 verses. Enoch gives the seeker the full account those verses were summarizing. Fragments of the Book of Enoch were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran, physical proof that this account was circulating, copied, and treated as authoritative scripture by a Jewish community living in the centuries surrounding the life of Christ. This was not obscure literature. It was part of the religious worldview of the Second Temple period, the very period in which the New Testament was written. Chapter 5: The Final Judgment. Enoch's account does not end with the watchers triumphant. It ends with judgment. The archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and others, are commanded to act. Azazel, the text says, is bound and cast into darkness, his face covered until the day of final judgment. Semjaza and the others are bound beneath the hills of the earth, imprisoned for 70 generations. There is a quiet detail in the text that many readers miss. The location of this binding is described as occurring in a desolate place, and some ancient commentators connected this judgment site to the region surrounding Hermon itself. The mountain of the oath becomes, in the narrative, the mountain of the sentence. And here the seeker should pause to consider one final, often overlooked geographical fact. At the base of Mount Hermon sits the ancient city of Caesarea Philippi, a site soaked in the worship of Pan, a place the ancients called the Gates of Hell because of a massive cave believed to be an entrance to the underworld. It was here, at the foot of this exact mountain, that the New Testament records Christ asking his disciples who they believed he was, and declaring that even the gates of Hades would not prevail against what he was building. Whether by deliberate design or staggering coincidence, the geography binds these narratives together. The mountain of the ancient oath, the cave called the Gate of the Underworld at its base, and the declaration, spoken in that very shadow, of a power greater than the one that had been bound there since before the flood. Conclusion: the ruins at the summit of Mount Hermon remain, to this day, difficult to fully excavate. The altitude, the climate, and the political instability of the region have kept this site largely inaccessible to modern archaeology. What has been documented, the temple, the inscription, the deliberate placement at the highest possible point, remains a fragment of a much larger picture still buried beneath snow and silence. But perhaps the deeper truth this mountain offers is not one of dread, but of perspective. The ancient writers who preserved this account were not trying to frighten their readers into despair. They were trying to explain why the world is broken, and to affirm that the breaking was neither permanent nor unanswered. Judgment came. Boundaries were set, and the same tradition that records the fall of the Watchers also insists, again and again, that the story does not end in their favor. For the modern seeker, Mount Hermon stands as a quiet, snow-covered reminder that the line between the sacred and the forbidden has always been thinner than comfort allows, and that even the oldest oaths, sworn at the edge of the heavens, were ultimately answered by a higher authority still. This has been Bible Secrets, Hidden History. Another forgotten chapter, another hidden truth, uncovered, examined, and preserved. The next investigation awaits, somewhere in the pages of the world's oldest, most overlooked records. The seeker need only continue forward,